us.
Well, welcome everyone.
Thanks.
Welcome to our November meeting.
I'm going to have to sit here now.
That's not a problem. I just set it down there.
I didn't notice when.
So here's the agenda for the meeting. It is our annual general meeting with elections. And Stephen will be the lucky person running the elections when we get to it. First, our meetings are open to the public, and please encourage your friends to come. I think most people know where the washrooms are, out that door. Same for the exits, although we do have an extra one over there. Is there anybody here for the very first time? Okay, so we're all friends here. That's good. In that case, we're going to get right to the elections, and I'm going to hand the podium over to Steve.
Okay. Do we have a quorum? I do not see a quorum here. I think, what is it, 8 or 12?
And you wrote the bylaws.
How many are paid up members of OGS in this branch? How many hands will we got? Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. Yeah, we're over
There's
12,
12.
so
There's over 12.
I guess we do have a quorum. Okay, that solves that problem.
Okay. You've got 2 slides if you want to press right to get the next one. You can. All yours.
Or you can just look at the big screen.
Yeah, well, seeing what was coming next, it's a surprise to me. I'm not telling you.
Okay.
Okay, it's that time of year again. I don't know if I need this or not, but as you know, we're always looking for help to keep the branch running. We're one of the lucky branches that has been running fairly smoothly over the past few years. Some branches are having a little more trouble than others. And we want to keep it that way, so we're always looking for help. According to the OGS bylaws, the Ontario Genealogical Society, we have to elect 4 positions each year. As you can see, the 4 are up there. And for the past year, we have not had a vice chair.
Past year.
Yeah, well, okay. I'm stretching it a little, maybe shrinking it a little bit. We past chair, of course. The idea behind the past chair is eventually they move up into the chair's position and run the branch like Nancy does from up here for a year or 2. Generally, it's a 2-year position, and then we move on, but it can be adjusted.
We're flexible.
We're flexible, that's right. We have had a couple of people who have, I don't know if, what, do I need this or no? You know, turn the whole thing.
Oh, there's some muscles, that's all.
Just watch Nancy try and use it.
Well, she can bend it down, so don't worry.
Actually, you're almost too close.
Yeah, just stand
Too
up a
close?
little bit.
Okay.
There, right there.
I'm not used to these things. That's not working too well. We're getting feedback.
I'll move it back a little.
Maybe it's... Okay, we'll try again.
Right there, perfect.
Okay.
No, we're getting
I don't know
feedback.
why suddenly.
I think I'm noisy enough, so I'll try it without it. And if I'm not getting through to the back, let me know.
You can move up.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to elect 4 positions here. We'll start with the position of chair. What we do is we'll take nominations from the floor, and I'm not sure how reluctant Nancy is, but Nancy has stated that she is willing to serve for another term should it need be. I believe you've been through the 2 already, so technically she would be moving on if we had a vice chair. So I will entertain nominations for the position of chair from the floor. Are there any nominations?
Nominate Nancy.
I know Nancy has said she will, so that is a possibility. Second try from the floor. Is there any other nominations from the floor for the position of chair? Going 3 times. Any nominations? I do believe, Nancy, you are claimed chair again. Thank you very much for standing.
Do I need to put the person's name down that presented the nomination, or
Yeah, who nominated her?
do we have to put the person that?
I don't think so. I don't think we thought that.
I don't think we have, as long as they're here in person and
accepted.
agree.
I just wanted to know.
Okay. Okay, we're looking for position of vice chair. As we mentioned before, the idea is you spend a couple of years in that spot and maybe move up into the position of chair for a year or 2, or 3, as the case may be. And are there any nominations from the floor for vice chair? Going once. Going twice. No nominations for vice chair for this year. We will have to do something behind the scenes to try and encourage someone, because Nancy probably would prefer to not spend the rest of her life in that spot. Okay, secretary recording. Karen is currently doing the job at the back there, and she has agreed that she will continue for another year should we so want. I will now entertain any other nominations from the floor for the position of recording secretary. That's once. How about twice? We got a big group here tonight, don't we? 3 times. Okay. Thank you very much, Karen. You are, again, recording secretary. And finally, and the most fun job out of all, just ask Sheila, treasurer. You get to play with all her money. And Sheila has stated that she is willing to continue on in this position should there be no other changes. However, we will ask for nominations from the floor for the position of treasurer. Going once, twice, 3 times. And I do believe, Sheila, you are elected again to the position of treasurer. Congratulations. Congratulations to everyone. And thank you very much for helping the branch out. We will try and get you more help. Now, you said press the rate.
Right there.
We are also looking for non-elected positions. We don't have to stand up and run around and hold our hands up or anything here, but if you like the refreshments, it would be nice if someone could look after that instead of...
And maybe we could have coffee again.
Maybe we could have coffee again if as Nancy says. So if someone is interested in looking after the refreshments, it's a matter of bringing a few drinks and maybe cookies, and generally the fund pays for itself. What the donations are into the fund generally pay for all the expenses for that. So it's not, and if not, the branch will pay. You do not have to pay any money towards doing the job. You just have to do a little bit of lugging. So if anyone would like that job, talk to Nancy or Ann or I. Greeting committee. We would like to get our greeting committee going again. We've been a little lax in that department, but we'd like to encourage everyone to talk amongst ourselves as they come in, to make everyone, especially new people, feel welcome. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't, I'm afraid. But if anyone would like to be on that committee, please see, again, Nancy or Ann or any of your other executives. And another important position here, newsletter editor and committee. Our newsletter editor is retiring, I believe, with the final one for 2016. She's moving away and is unable to attend the meetings anymore. So she has a good excuse. And she's done it faithfully for the past number of years and done a wonderful job. So
5 or 6 years now.
5 or 6 years now, yes. And she's done a terrific job. And we need someone to fill her shoes. You need, I guess, experience with, we'll say, Word or something similar to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what she uses. I haven't been able to get a hold of her.
And
Publisher, maybe.
we do have some templates, we'll say, and things like that you can work with, how to set everything up. But if someone is handy typing, we could really use your help. Generally, we try and rely on submissions from members. That's why the other reason we're trying to set up a committee is to help get a better flow of material into her files to be able to use it. That's it. So if anyone would like to be on the committee and or chair it, please, again, see one of us on the executive, because we really could use your help on that. That's an important one because we have to do that 4 times a year. And we have to get it out. So please see us on that. Okay, I think, Nancy, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
There is on the line, Robert Halyard is saying, for those of us watching on live stream, it would be helpful if nominees' last names were given.
Oh.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay.
Okay.
But we're done.
So, nominees' last names: Nancy Trimble for chair. Karen Church was recording secretary. Sheila Iacono is our treasurer. And who am I missing? Mr. or Miss Blank for the vice chair position.
And the website has those names spelled correctly.
Oh, good. I'm glad we're on the website.
Well, we're not here at this moment, but
Yeah.
clicking on it will show those names.
Yes. Okay. Now, do you need me to turn the mic back on?
Is it
Okay.
coming through okay, Dan?
I'll just keep going then. Okay. Before Colleen came on as editor of our newsletter, we did newsletter by committee for about a year. Before that, 1.5 years perhaps, and it actually was kind of fun. We all got together at the office, and one person would be using the microfilm reader and transcribing an obituary from one of our newspapers, and somebody else would be looking through a gazetteer and typing up something, and it really didn't take very long before we had enough material to put the newsletter together. But it is a very, it's extremely important, especially for our distance members that don't have a chance of ever getting to a branch meeting.
You were just wondering whether it was mandatory or not to have a newsletter, or?
It's not mandatory, but you'd be killing the branch because nobody would want to join because they're not seeing any benefit.
Well, that's why we just.
Yeah. Now that we're actually streaming our meetings online,
Yeah.
there is somewhat of a benefit. But it was the newsletter that always kept our American and English subscribers in touch with the branch.
So it's not mandated that we have to have a newsletter?
No, it's not mandated. It's been more of a tradition and a member recruitment
Okay, thanks.
thing. Okay. Well, it's renewal time. This is what your login page when you sign in, if you're already a member, when you sign in, there is a spot there. You got a link to renew your membership. There's another spot there I want to mention just before I get to the feature stuff tonight. Down here about my heritage, but I want to talk about the renewals first. So OGS has come up with a Growing Our Family campaign. And I hope you've read about it. It was announced in the e-weekly. There was a link to go through and get the full details. A current OGS member sponsors a new person. The new person, I believe, has to have not been a member of OGS for at least 2 years previously. I believe it's 2. And both people involved get 50% off. So in essence, OGS ends up with the same amount of money, but has grown the number of people who belong to OGS. And hopefully those people that you sponsor into the branch will become involved and active in the branch. So we're trying to rejuvenate the branches. That's what it looks like on the website. That's too small to read, but basically, if you find someone you want to sponsor, a new member, you're going to end up paying $31.50 instead of $63. So it's worth your effort to try and find someone. It's a one-on-one deal. If you bring in 2 people, sorry, it doesn't get you the whole membership free. Is that what you were going to ask, Bob?
And I haven't, but what if you renew, pay the full tilt, and then you sponsor?
I would think that you would contact OGS and they would make adjustments. Because if the person you're going to sponsor, you go in and you put in the person's name that you're going to sponsor. If that person never does sign up, then they follow up with an invoice for the other half of your membership. So I'm assuming they would refund you if you brought in a member after you had paid, okay?
Because we want to encourage people to sign up, our existing people to renew, and you don't want them to hold back saying, oh, if I got somebody, I get half off.
Yeah. No, the idea is to get more bodies in the door, get more people who'd be interested in helping the branches, and I think it's a great idea. Now, this is what it looked like on the Facebook page. So, oh, is it blocking my beautiful face?
It is.
Okay. And you'll notice that's on the Facebook page. And while I was there, I was poking around. So here's some more other news from the OGS Facebook group. If you do go, and you haven't done this, down here at the bottom it will say join us or something along that line. You would click and then they go in and approve you and you get added to the group, and then you can post and see posts and comment on posts. So it's Remembrance Day, so I thought, well, let's see what they're doing, posting about Remembrance Day. Well, there was one they posted about the Canadian War Museum with a very lovely photo of a veteran talking to a young child. And in one of the replies to a post, Cindy Taylor Robichaud put up a post about Heritage Mississauga and what they're doing for the First World War. And then we also got posts about the medals database at Library and Archives Canada. And speaking of archives, like Library and Archives Canada, they've recently announced a new name for the files that they have for the First World War. It's not just called the Canadian Expeditionary Force Files, because they've added other databases into it. It's now called Personnel Records. And here's what's being covered there. So, people who were rejected at Valcartier. So maybe your person you figured never served, but you might find them in there with the reason why they didn't serve. They
only 15.
Pardon?
He was only 15.
Maybe they found out, did they?
They're missing a leg.
Well, you know, it could be medical, it could be something else, you never know. There's militia members who served on the home front and did various things like guarding armories and bridges and stuff like that, apparently. So that'd be interesting to see. And of course, the Newfoundland Regiment was not part of Canada at that point, and they have gotten these files, I guess, from the Newfoundland archives and added it into this. And then after the war, there was a service gratuity, so there are files in there for people who survived and got the Imperial service gratuity. So they beefed up the database. So it's worth looking at again.
I've found 2 people who were veterans of the First World War who served as guards of prisoners of war
In
the Second
Canada?
World War in Canada.
In Canada.
Yes.
So they were prison of war camp guards.
Yes, in the
Okay.
Second World War.
By any chance, were they Bowmanville?
One was.
One was at Bowmanville. Oh, that's really interesting.
Yes.
And apparently the, what was it called? Camp 21?
30.
Camp 30? Thank you.
At 30.
Camp 30 land has been saved and is going to be developed as alternate space. It's not going to be a straight museum. It's going to be more like crafts and that sort of stuff is my understanding. But they are going to put it to use but still preserve the heritage part of it. And this was also on the Facebook, that the Commonwealth War Graves Commission is going to open its archives. Unfortunately, his archives are in Maidenhead, England. So unless you're planning an immediate trip, we won't get to see it. Now going back to that second thing I told you about, this is the very last day, if you're at all interested in subscribing to MyHeritage, which is the 4th of the big commercial databases. So you've got Ancestry, Find My Past, Family Search, and MyHeritage. They're the big 4 now. You can get 50% off, but you've got to do it before midnight today. And it's through the Federation of Genealogical Societies that this offer is being made, and OGS is a member, and that's why that offer is up on your members page. I didn't even realize it was happening. I knew we'd had one in the past for Find My Past, but I hadn't realized MyHeritage had one. And just to bring you up to date, for those of you who didn't get to the fall workshop, we had a great time. It went very well. We had, I think in total, 31 registrants. And Ruth and Stephen were great speakers. I think everybody got a lot out of it. And going on to next year's conference, I hope you booked your residence room. I haven't heard that they're getting short of rooms yet, but it would, with Canada 150 happening in Ottawa next year, it would be a good idea. But what's been showing up on their page has been they've been doing bios of speakers. So the one on the left, I don't know if you recognize him. Do you watch Genealogy Roadshow? Josh Taylor, he's coming. Blaine Bettinger, he's big in the DNA field. And he's got a blog and a book, and he teaches courses on DNA, so he's quite a leading light there. And our very own Dave Obie from Victoria, BC will be back. He's always very entertaining to listen to. But this is something that piqued my interest. I hadn't heard a word about this, but on Monday, apparently, there's going to be an Ancestry Day. Ancestry.ca is going to put on a day-long workshop. It's an extra cost activity, obviously. We don't have any details. But they're mentioning bringing Krista Cowan up. I don't know if you've listened to any of her blogs. She's the Barefoot Genealogist. That's the name of her blog. She blogs for Ancestry quite a bit, twice a week, I believe. And it's a video blog, so you can watch her and she demonstrates things for Ancestry.
So is that prior to or after?
That's the Monday right after.
Okay.
Okay, conference ends on Sunday the 18th. It's on Monday the 19th. So if you plan on taking advantage of that, you better make sure you book your residence night over Sunday night. So at this point, I'm going to start our program. And I've just got a couple of slides here. Someone at our workshop, and I don't remember who it was one of our attendees, made a suggestion that a blog or a website she really likes, and they have a Facebook page as well, is something called Family History Daily. Has anybody here used it? I hadn't even heard of it. Anybody recognize this? Okay. Well, it seems to be basically it's like a blog, and they post articles, and they're usually of pretty good interest. Now this is some of it's very U.S. centric, okay? When you're talking a 1940 census, that is obviously not Canada or Britain. But this could be very interesting, and I did have a quick look at those 50 free genealogy sites, not that I clicked the links, but it was a combination of, I believe, Australian, Canadian, UK, and American sites, so well worth looking at. And all I did was Google Family History Daily. So that's just a few of the topics they've got trending about society pages and newspapers, genealogy books you can get for free to read on your Kindle. There's an article on climbing the wrong tree. So it looks to be like a journal almost, that you could a newsletter journal that you can read, and it also has a Facebook presence. And at this point, I'm going to call Steve up. He's going to give us a tip.
What was that website? It's called
Family History Daily.
Thank you.
So I think they're kind of like a daily newspaper type of an idea. Sorry, I've obviously got a few things open in the background. It's taking a couple of minutes to come up. And you can use this to go back and forth, and that's your
laser.
laser. Very minuscule laser.
Gee, my computer does that sometimes.
It's very annoying. I did click it, didn't
It's gone.
I? There we go. Just a tip from Steve's presentation on Saturday.
Yes, anybody that was at with us last Saturday will recognize this, but it was suggested I present it tonight, just to give a few extra clues. So I thought I'd give you the bare bones of it here. If you're stuck in Scotland and seem to have hit a brick wall, have Have you considered that they may have changed their name? There was various reasons for this. Sometimes to show allegiance, or for inheritance purposes, concealment purposes. You may have heard about the MacDonalds in 1690s and maybe the McGregors before that. They had to kind of hide for a while, so they might have changed their name. They're also, sometimes they would be using the Gaelic version of their name versus the English. And in the early years, especially up north, they were using patronymics. So that can also throw a monkey wrench into your search. I did a case study for John Christie. He was my great-great-great-grandfather. He was supposedly born in Killen, Perthshire, Scotland. His tombstone does mention that he's a native of Perthshire, and his son mentions that the son was born in Killen. So that part was confirmed. And his age on the tombstone, he died on February 24th, 1881, at the age of 82 years and 3 days. So he's probably born in February 21st, about 1799 there. Census returns say he's born about 1798, so we have a nice ballpark there. 1841 census, I found him in Killen Parish with his family. He's a farmer. His 4 sons and daughter are with him. His wife and other daughter have died by this time. His age is a little bit off. He's born about 1802 to 1806 according to this census, but he was born in the county of Perthshire, so that agreed, and his sister happens to be with him as well. So everything is kind of meshing together. Like I say, the age is slightly off there, but not bad.
Yes, but that was rounded down, remember?
They are rounded down. That's why I said 1802 to 1806.
Yeah.
So I did have it. Yes. So, using Family Search, who have indexed a lot of the Church of Scotland records, I did a search for John Christie, born in Killen, Perthshire, Scotland, in a range 1793 to 1803. As I say, the census returns said about 1798 for his birth date, so that's why I did a 10-year range including that. There was no records found for John Christie. And for about 20 years, I sat with that, because this is the first family I ever researched because I knew where he came from in Scotland. So I ordered in the microfilms to the LDS Center up in Mississauga at the time. We were going back into 1980s, and nothing. I copied every Christie out in the records, but that's as far as I got. Sorry, this one's not showing up too well. However, I was given a tip by another researcher who had actually been given the tip from someone else. And I was told to check under the name McGilchrist. You can't quite read it. Well, I guess you can read that one a little better. Because McGilchrist was another version of Christie. Sure enough, John McGilchrist, this one's christened 20th of February 1798 in Killen. And another John McGilchrist in 7th November 1798. So I went from no possibilities to 2. I concentrated on the February one because that was approximately the birth date I had from the tombstone. Later records confirmed that he was the son of Duncan McGilchrist and Christian. And it turns out that Christian was actually a McGilchrist as well, just to really mess me up. But it was under a different surname. Now, of course, if you start switching surnames, someone has actually done a study on this. Reverend William Alexander Gillies wrote a book in famed Breadalbin in 1938, I believe it was. And he does mention Breadalbin surname substitutions. This would be Perthshire area. And some of these substitutions are quite interesting. They're not what you'd expect. There's the Christie, McGilchrist, or Gilchrist. Creerer, alias McIntosh. Unfortunately, they're a little fuzzy here, but I do have the actual papers here. You can flip through the papers during our break if you're interested in checking out this list a little closer. McCall, alias McDonald. McIver, alias McDermott. McIntyre, alias Wright. You'll notice some of these have a little G in front. That would be the Gaelic. So that gives you the Gaelic version of the name. Like Haggart is McIntaggart. So that one's at least a little closer to what you're expecting.
But how do you know that that's your ancestor? Like,
Well, you kind of have to play with it. You've got to copy them all down, at least in the time period you're interested in, because of course you can get 4 different possible combinations. Here's one Christie family, or McGilchrist family, and they use 3 of them. John McGilchrist and Janet McDermott for the first 2. John Christie and Catherine Janet McDermott. Then we're back to John McGilchrist and Janet McDermott. And then at the bottom, John McGilchrist and Janet McIver.
so does that mean if they have children, that instead of saying the child, say first born is John Christie, they could actually call and have the child baptized as John Gilchrist? Is that?
Yes, these are actual baptismal records right here. Yeah, so this is the same family, although they really messed it up with Donald at the bottom here. And they used 3 out of 4 possible combinations. The only one they didn't use was Christie and McIver on this one. So you have to kind of plot them all out and see how they're fitting together.
Could Donald be the son and John be the dad?
I wondered if they'd reversed it. It is a possibility, although there is a Donald up here. So
but he died.
If he died, I'd have to check my records, I think. But it was a possibility.
Could I ask how long this has gone for? Because I have Scottish ancestors.
Well, this was taking place mostly during the 1700s.
Okay.
You can see these dates here, 1762.
Yeah.
My guy was 1798, so it did go up right up to 1800. And it just probably depends on the family. It could be a little later, could be a little earlier. And there were still Christies, as you can see even here, right in the middle of the whole bunch. You've got one Christie, and the rest of the time they were called McDermotts. Go figure. So it is something you're going to have to be aware of, especially if you can't find your ancestor in the records. It throws in a little monkey wrench, but at least gives you an idea of another source to look through. Maybe break down that brick wall. So, good luck. I'll just put the sheet on the front table for you to look at. We're at break.
So could I ask, you located your ancestry that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're certain?
Who recognizes
Yes.
this one?
Yeah, because most of the kids
Is
were under the
this
Christie.
yours, Dan?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
and you'll have to run this.
And now which,
Which one do you want, the library or the 23andMe?
I'm thinking the
Well,
library would be good.
Pardon me?
The library?
Yeah, it's fairly short.
That PowerPoint, you want the PowerPoint?
PowerPoint, probably. And how does the clicker work?
Right, left, pointer.
So right
Forward-
takes it to the
forward,
next.
back.
Forward, yeah, forward and back, yeah.
All right. Oh, well, the pointer doesn't show up very well on the streaming, But I guess I mentioned one time before I had been looking up for my neighbors in Peterborough, where I grew up. The Jamesons came from Bowmanville, and I'm still good friends with one of their sons. And so I've been sending him things that I was finding in the Statesman, and I thought I'd give him a little advice. In order to get to the e-records, when you get to the Clarington Library, you have to go to the virtual branch, as you can see, and then down to e-resources. It's a little tricky to find sometimes. And I'm pointing at
The hub.
the hub. Okay, and here it's hard to see, but when you do click on that, you get a list, and you'll see genealogical local history clicker button. And then when you get into that, you'll see subdirectories for digitized newspapers and a full listing of genealogy and local history resources. Now, what did I do here? Oh yes. Now you can go to a search directly from this point, and it will search all of the newspapers, or you can pick a newspaper, as I'll show you in a moment. So I clicked on Clarington Local Newspapers, the second pink box, and this is what came up. And you can see that they have digitized a good deal of the Merchant and General Advertiser, the Orono Weekly Times, and the Canadian Statesman, which was the Bowmanville major paper from, I think, 1850 something or other, but it is now defunct. But still, the library has done a better job of digitizing. They've taken the original newspapers and sent them off to be digitized, so it's quite a good resolution. Now, when you get there, you'll see that they have, because the newspaper back in the early days came out once a week, you can see the dates on which they've recorded in the darker blue, the bolder blue. And so if you clicked on one of those months, you would arrive, you know, you can, there's a lot more going down below. This shows January 1868, but as you scroll down, you can see a lot more years. Now, I happen to have received an inquiry from some people at the University of Western Ontario, called Western now, they've shortened the name, called the Cold Case Society, and they were looking for a case of a young lady who in 1963, I can hear them, it's okay, Ann, because I can hear it with my, what did I do with it? Anyway, Bluetooth is gone, but it was okay, the sound was coming through before. She disappeared in 1963 at the age of 13, a missing person. So I thought for this example, I'd look up this instead of my relatives, the Jamesons and the Allens. And so I went to do a search for Greenlee, because her last name was Greenlee. And it came up with all kinds of hits. But I knew she disappeared in '63, so I looked for that one. And you can see one side on the top right corner, there's an enlarged version of the first page, which is, well, you see a bunch of the pages. You can scroll down and see all kinds of them. But because it had a little bit about her, I thought, now how do I get to retain this? What can I do to hold on to it? Well, when you click on it, that's not very suitable, is it? The resolution is not very good. But in this slide, you can see that you can have a smaller resolution, 640 by 480. The default goes to 1,000 pixels by 900, which you see here, still kind of hard to read. You can then use the scroll wheel on your mouse to make it blow up, or you can click on larger, 1600 by 1080, and then there's a 2400 one. Well, when you do blow it up, it becomes quite easy to read. These are very good scans now. And what do you do now? Well, you can do a print screen, and then you have to go into an editor and do all kinds of cutting and pasting. I happen to use a little utility called Shotty, where it will take a screenshot and then allow you to crop it and even put text on, or you saw those little pink boxes? It'll allow you to do that. That's how I got these slides. And when you do take a shot, though, sometimes you get that extra navigation pane up in the top right. It's a yellow box, and what you can do with your mouse is drag that yellow box around, and it will focus on certain areas of the newspaper page, the enlarged page. This is just a shot of a part of that page. Now, because I'd searched for Greenlee, No, I searched for Noreen. Her first name was Noreen. When you do searches on the site, it will highlight anything that it finds in that search corresponding to it in this pink color. If you do a screen grab, you're going to get that. You're going to get that pink color. Maybe you want it, maybe you don't. If you don't want it, there's one other thing you can do. You can focus on at the top of the screen, or near the top, there's a thing called PDF version of this page. And when you click on that, you get a very, very high resolution PDF, which you can then, once it's in your browser, this happens to be Adobe Acrobat, I think, but then up in the top right corner, you can see that downward facing, like a hanging page. If you click on that, it says you can download it. And when you download it, sometimes it comes to you with even a nice little title on the page. I think that might be the end, yes. Now I would suggest further that when you're looking at pages, that you scroll right down to the bottom. If you come to a newspaper page and you're reading it, right down to the bottom, there are other links down there for helping you navigate to the next page and go to a particular page on the site. Okay, that's it for me.
Okay.
Try to make it fast.
What do you call it, Shotty? What is that?
Shotty is a little add-on I use with Windows computers. I'm not familiar with the Apple
How do you spell
ones.
that, please?
Shotty.
Nice.
And it will do an area, a whole page.
I like that.
You can draw out an area of your screen, and you can put a delay on it as well. You hold down the control button, it does a 10-second delay before it takes a snap of the page.
So is it available in Windows, or do you have to download it?
You download it, and it's free.
Okay.
But just watch out, what did I find the last time? Oh yes, when I had it set for default values of Shotty, it was taking my screen captures and uploading them to someplace.
Oh.
Not just me. So you have to go into that setting, into your settings and preferences, and say, no uploads. Do not upload. Or you'll find it'll go somewhere, and who knows where that is. I guess Nancy's going to figure out who's next.
That's me. B is going to talk about Wilkes.
Yeah, Lucinda Wilkes.
Okay.
Can you do that for a while? I want to talk to Bob.
Yeah, I can do that.
Come and do it then.
Left, right, and reverse. Yeah, so that's forward, that's back, that's left. Oh, it's very tough, unfortunately.
It's taking its time.
Yeah, this time it is. Dan's went in really quickly.
Well, I can always tell you a bit about it anyway. Lucinda Wilkes is my great-great aunt. She's the brother or sister of my great-great-grandfather, George N. Wilkes, which you can see up there. What happened was I couldn't find her burial in any of the records. And when I phoned the Belleville Cemetery, where I knew from her death notice and her death, which you'll see, her death record, okay, vital statistics, it said she had been buried in the Belleville Cemetery. Well, when I called them, because I knew she'd married a Kating, there was no record. It was like she wasn't there. So I had to do some researching. So I had to go right back to her birth, and we'll go from there. She was born 9th of October, 1830 in Murray Township. She was christened, because I found it on the Wesleyan Methodist baptismal records. And B&C confirmed that it was Benjamin and Catherine, which I had known already. From there, and her name at that point was Lucinda Wilkes. Here you see her marriage, which was got from the marriage registers of Upper Canada, is John Kating to Lucinda Wilkes, but Wilkes is spelled without an E, W-I-L-K-S. So there's one name change. So I went looking to see where I could find her. The only place I couldn't find her was in the 1871 census, not under any of the names that I have for her, as we'll find later, and then the Belleville Cemetery records. So in the 1851 census, which you have to look up yourself, you either go to an index, which is what we did. There was no Lucinda Kating. It was Caton, and that's the first time I ever saw that. She's listed with James, which is her husband, James or John. He's referred to as both in all of the documents going along. It has her first 2 children there. And then Alan and Jemima are James's brother and sister. At least I think it's his brother and sister, or else it's his brother and his wife. In the 1861 census, again, I think I got it off ancestry, if I'm not mistaken. He's listed as a laborer, and they have now more children, as you can see. That's the census. You can't read it from here. It's very difficult to. Then I went to the 1881 census, and it's Caton again, but she's Lucinda Caton, not Louise as she was in the first one. So she was Louise Caton. She was Lucinda Wilkes when she was born. She was Lucinda Wilkes without an E when she was married. She's Lucinda Kating in the first census. Now she's Lucinda Caton in the second one. Well, this is twice now that she's Caton. That's the census. In the 1891 census, they became Kating again, but with 2 T's instead of 1. In the 1901 census, she's with her son, one of her middle sons. It's not her oldest son and it's not her younger one. And with his family, and she was listed as the mother of John. She's Lucinda Kating with 2 T's again. Now, the death of her husband was gotten from the Intelligencer, and that's just a transcript of it. It says that he was a Kating with 1 T, and that he was buried in the Belleville Cemetery as well. I could not find him in the vital statistics at all, his record of death. So that's the only place we could find it. Belleville Intelligencer is her death, and she's Lucinda Kating with 1 T. And that says that she was buried in the Belleville Cemetery. So we're in luck there. According to her death record in vital statistics, she's also a Kating, and she's buried in the Belleville Cemetery. That's it. It's very small, but it does say Belleville Cemetery on it. And she is Lucinda Kating with 2 T's. So, what do we know about her? We know that she was born as Lucinda Wilkes, W-I-L-K-E-S. Name of marriage at her marriage was Lucinda Wilkes without an E-S. Then Louisa Caton, Lucinda Kating with 2 T's, Lucinda Caton, or Cat again. Lucinda Kating with 2 T's, Lucinda Kating with 2 T's, Lucinda Kating was the name on the 1911 census. And then Lucinda Kating on the obituary with 1 T, and name on death registration with 2 T's. So I phoned the Belleville Cemetery again once I got this information. They couldn't find her with a death date of 9th of June and a burial date of 11th of June 1920 under any of those names. Lucinda Kating with 1 T, 2 T's, Caton, Lucinda, Lucinda Kating, Lucinda Keating, because that's also one of her son's names. I don't know why. It gets totally changed around. And Lucinda Wilkes. I asked if they had a John Kating. They did. They found him. She's buried in the same plot as him, but as Louisa Caton. Both names, way from the name way back, and it was just one of the most amazing things. You really do have to check all of your records if you can't find someone. You really do, because you never know what the name is going to be. They also had the son John, who she was with at the end. He was buried in the same plot. He had gone to Detroit with his family, died in Detroit, and they brought him back to be buried in Belleville.
Wow.
That's part of the enumerators fault, the spelling of the last name, you think, or?
I assume it's because the one who did the census
Yeah.
couldn't understand what they were saying.
That's what I wondered.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But I'm not sure why it was Keattitting or Kaiatting,
Yeah, yeah.
especially when the marriage was Kaiting.
Could they read or write in the census over on those tick mark columns?
I didn't look.
Check that out, because if they didn't know how to spell their name,
I can.
they got Hobson's choice as to whoever was writing it would spell it however they wanted to.
Wow. Might not be able to even see it.
Okay, I think we'll take a 15-minute refreshment break at this point, and when we come back, we'll have more of these for you.
The matching program says that this person's probably relation to me. Looking at his pedigree, and not all people put up pedigree, this shows the value of it. Maybe I have to go back to the dashboard.
Yeah.
But it shows the value of doing it. That going down to the next. Oops.
Did you want that?
Oh, yeah, got it. Yeah, so we can look at, and there's names. You notice on the far side, it's hard to see. It bolds names that are similar to names that I've put in my family tree. And and a Richardson's, I'm pretty sure related to me. That's through that Ewers line.
Paul and Howard.
Yeah, I've got Howard's, Martin's. Yep. Isabel, or Bell. And you can sort it by various headers. Any questions in this aspect? Okay.
So you downloaded your JetCom, or is this your program?
Well, we're in the Family Tree DNA site right now.
Right.
I've paid to have tasked. I've uploaded my JetCom into their program, so that was that first thing. And then this is one of my test results. This is a Family Finder test, a $79 test. And what they do is they look at my DNA, and they also look at my JetCom. And they've sort of highlighted these names. There's St. Martin. You might want to look at this. We bolded it because you've got Martins in your family tree too.
So is this associated with any other programs? Like, I got mine done in Ancestry, My Heritage.
No. Each company does its own thing. And so there's, now there is a way, if you've been tested with Ancestry before this summer, you can migrate your data to Family Tree DNA. There are also third-party sites that you can upload your DNA data to, and so that you can compare it. But
what he's compared to here is just the pool of everybody who's tested at
Yes.
Family Tree DNA.
Right.
Yes.
That's it.
Well, that's what I was wondering if like, I did it on Ancestry, but My Heritage also.
Yeah, they've just
matches.
gotten into the game.
But I didn't get a DNA done on My Heritage.
No, My Heritage doesn't do DNA.
Yeah.
Yes, it does now.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, it's just come out.
Yeah.
I'm just getting into it.
Just getting into it.
Okay.
But now My Heritage does allow you to upload your raw data, your raw DNA
Yeah.
data up from the
I
other
must
sites.
have did that when I got it back or something,
Yeah.
years ago.
So go back to my dashboard then. Where is it?
I don't know, but here it is.
Okay, so that's Family Finder, that's the autosomal. The next one's Y-DNA. Now, they have a bunch of different levels. I've tested at the highest levels there. Maybe show the ancestral origins one on that. Okay. So your Y-DNA is your father, your father's father, your father's fathers. And it shows what countries you might, where they found matches. It wasn't the map I was thinking of. One was Yeah, and so there's, yeah,
5%.
You're mixed up.
11% of the voters for
yeah, but see, that would be people going over there. One thing that you gotta bear in mind when you're doing, you go back to the dashboard, when you're looking at these results, it all depends on self-reporting. So I've submitted my information and said I'm from England. They compare me with other people that say the same thing. If I'm wrong, that skews off their database. If there's what they call a non-paternity event, I think I'm the son of a mailman. It could have been the milkman. But you can, if that happens somewhere along the line and people aren't necessarily aware of it, that can really skew it. So that's Y DNA. The next one down is the big Y. You hit matches for the fun of it on that. The big Y is really expensive, but I thought why not. There's Rebecca Euchre, something like that. She's doing a research project on Big Y. It was sort of interesting. I had to send an immediate email to the second person here, Stuart Gray. My grandfather, or great-grandfather, sold his farm to Stuart Gray, who's still living up in Raglan. It turns out that Stuart Gray is no relation, but to the one, but I'm guessing they probably are somehow. But it's sort of bizarre how you can find coincidence. I thought if that's ever a relative, that's really, really Twilight Zone. Weird.
How come I can't get over to the other part? There seems to be more columns to the right.
Yeah, but when you do the download of the raw data, it is an enormous file. And when you get your results, you can download some of the data, but to get the full, what they call BAM file, you have to specifically request that, and it takes them another 2 weeks. So there's a researcher in the States that's looking at my line, or the line I fall into, and she's trying to piece it together. So she asked for my raw data, and so I had to send her a link because it was just too big even to try to Dropbox the raw file. And it's interesting, she's got back to me and said she's looked at it, and she's actually contacted Family Tree DNA. We're not being recorded, are we on the internet?
That, I can move it away.
Oh, it's okay. There seems to be a bit of an error in the file.
Oh, okay.
And so anyways, nothing that we did. Okay. Oh no, this is okay to show this.
All right.
I didn't want to say too much, but so anyways, you can download your raw data. It's very interesting, but I haven't made any links on this yet. So going back to the dashboard, maternal DNA matches again. I haven't found anything interesting there so far. Interesting, that name I showed where we are related. I have, just in a quick look, it doesn't pop up here. It knows Dr. Walt Engstrom Nail. You see the Scandinavian names there?
Very interesting.
Yeah, and
Well, that'd be down through your mother's line, because that's mitochondria.
yeah, and now my mother, that name she called up Martin. I was told was Dutch, so that could be that line coming down through. That could be that 20% Scandinavian. But you see, very much Scandinavian names there.
My understanding is, though, with mitochondrial DNA, you only look at the genetic distance of 0,
Yeah,
and you ignore everything
yeah,
below it.
yeah. But so I haven't found a lot on that. You can go back to the dashboard. And there's maps, and migration maps. So there's migration maps showing where the supposed E was, and here's the branches for all the various groups.
And it says your haplogroup is J.
J for the maternal.
So that's right there,
Yeah.
up into
Yep.
British Isles.
Yep. And there's a similar for the Y, I believe. Questions? Yes?
I think it was back in the big Y chart. The top name
Yep.
and the first column, I forget what the title on it was now, there was a 0 or something on it.
Genetic distance, I think it was. So that's supposedly one of your closer.
No, not that one. And then, but why did it show up at the top of the list before the other ones where you picked out the second name?
I think
There's a 0
it's
there.
sorted by matching SNPs. So the column over here, I think it's sorted
okay,
by.
so but the other ones,
Oh, no, it isn't.
your
Actually,
Sir-
is it?
No, it's not.
your Sir Novell variants seem to be in order except for the top one, which is 0.
Oh, 0 is closest. So that's the distance is 0, so that's the closest. So one is farther, 2 is farther.
But why are they not in the, I guess I'm questioning, no, not that column, the column,
The one over, yeah, I see what you're saying.
why is the top one 0, then
Oh,
the next
shared.
one's 20, and then they go down from there?
Bad
I
software.
think there's,
Because he doesn't have a
I think there's,
CT
might
number.
be a column that's
there's
not
one.
showing here. Shared novel variants. It's the blue one, and I think the genetic distance is the one where it starts with 0. I think that's novel variants. I think,
And this is no SNP difference.
yeah.
Can't
John
help you here.
No, I just thought,
I
it
haven't
seemed
got
funny
my
that
DNA, can't help
that's the first column, and they
Yeah.
seem to be sorted,
Yeah,
except for the first one.
yeah. But it's,
0 and 0.
yeah.
The rest are not.
Going up to the dashboard, yeah. Is it?
Yeah.
You also can go into projects. If you go into the manage my projects, so you can find projects. So go to the Bell project, and these are ones you can join. Obvious reason why I joined the Bell one. Hit DNA results. There's a discussion below. Do colorized chart. You can search for that kit number. So what they do is they clump people that fit Ahnentafel group R. I think it's fairly far down. Oops, I thought.
Will it work if I do find on page?
Yes, yep. That's how I always do it. So what they do is even finding yourself. So there's me. My farthest back ancestors, Jeremiah Bell. That's self-reporting. I'm in Hell Group R. No matches, but no matches found. So in other words, nobody
matches you?
Nobody matches me. I'm an alien.
DNA that matches you.
Yeah, so nobody's been tested that has matched me, which can mean, we're not Bells. All of a sudden you show up in the Smith file. Or that it's nobody in your branch of the male line, because this is just the male line. There's no male Bell relatives that have tested yet, and which is what I presume is the case here.
Or in your line, everybody else is daughtered out except for you.
Yeah, and like there isn't a lot of Bell, I know even around here, there's not a lot of Bell relatives. And there is Bell relatives I know here or there, but very few. And I don't know of any of them that have tested. Now, I've got a Bell relative in Switzerland, I think it is, and it'd be interesting to get him to a test and see if he would pop up then. And so I'm Bell. You notice some of the people's after their test, like I'm that one. The one down below doesn't give us much information. That person probably hasn't taken a test on as high level. So that if you scroll across, they only have a few, some of them only have a few columns of information. Some of them go on forever and ever, amen. And these ones seem to go on. But yeah, you start to see where people that haven't tested. Now notice these ones that with no matches, we're all ones that have taken a lot of tests. So we're all the ones that are frustrated. God, this everybody.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Okay.
thank you, Bob.
Is she okay? It's only 9 o'clock.
So I think at this point, I will go with Deb. And Deb's calling this Forgotten Photos.
But you remembered. But you remembered them.
Oh, I'm not going to let these go. I had a surprise recently. My daughter told me that there was an envelope at Robert Aldsworth's Photo World in Oshawa on Simcoe Street. And she said that a friend of hers had gone into Aldsworth and they're apparently closing in January for good. And she noticed boxes and boxes of
Forgotten photos.
And so my daughter went in and picked them up for me. I had taken these in June 6th, 2002. And over the course of probably half a year, back then, I took in groupings of negatives that my grandparents, my mom had of my grandparents. Only negatives, no pictures. We couldn't really tell very well what they were. So I was astounded that I had left one of these behind, and my phone number's on it, my name's on it. I did not get, I don't know why.
Why didn't they phone?
There are boxes, all alphabetized, of photos that if somebody goes in to claim them, all they have to do is pay for them and they can get them. So if you've ever taken photos to Aldsworth's, it might be worth just going in to just see in the boxes because these photos are going to be destroyed.
Which one is Aldsworth?
It's on Simcoe and Robert.
Is that across from Long and McQuaid?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, right there. They've been at that location, oh gosh, I think in the 60s, maybe the 70s. And I can only think that when I took in 2 or 3 of the chits that I didn't get one of them back because I'm so careful about these things. But there was a picture of my brother and my grandparents. That's not a good picture.
I put that on the camera.
Oh, here, this one's better. They've since passed on, and you know, as the longer people have left us, you just don't see tangible things of them, like something new. A photograph that I've never seen of my brother and my grandparents and our family, my sisters as well, and my parents are in it. So it's so wonderful. It was such a treat. So maybe you'll have some luck if if you've ever taken pictures to Aldsworth you know, more than once or a few at a time, and you might get a nice surprise.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's cute.
If I can add something to that, also check institutional photos. It's funny, I never thought, I was in there actually today. I picked up photos for Simple Street United Church, and I never thought to ask them if they had any of my own. But I got a call that they had some from the church, and these were from the 60s.
You got a call.
These were from the 1960s. There was quite a few of them.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
These were taken in 1968. So it's really good.
Yeah, the envelopes were marked 1960s.
Oh, wow. Well, that's right. Yeah, Genevieve did say that they went back many, many years. Yeah.
So Karen, did you have something?
I didn't bring a picture of the church, though. Is that what you?
Yeah, you had mentioned something, but I didn't have anything specific written down, so.
I guess I could talk about it. Is that about the church in Montreal?
Yes, that was an interesting story. Come and tell that.
Okay.
Come on up front.
I'm thinking. Can I think for a minute?
Sure.
Because, I did download the picture. You know what?
How about I do a little one,
Okay,
and
please, while I'm looking for a picture.
then you can look for that, so.
Thank you.
So I've got one, I've mentioned it once before, but that was 4 or 5 years ago, so I'm gonna just do it again. So it's maps.familysearch.org, and it brings up historical maps of England. I wish they had this for Scotland and Ireland as well, but it's just England. So you can go in here, and the basic map that you're seeing here is 1851, but you can choose other types of maps. Right now it's at the county level, but I can do the parish level. It just comes up so very tiny. And so I'm just going to put in a parish I know of and search for it. When I put my screen on the projector, it does funny things with sizes here. So you can see it's come up, it's brought one result. And when it comes up with this information, which you can click and get rid of, but it's nice because you know when the parish registers start. 1560, and the bishop transcripts start in 1666. If this is actually a place for your people, then you know which particular civil registration district it is in, or the poor law union. Sometimes you'll need that information of those jurisdictions. And you can do options here. So I can list the parishes around. So if I don't find my people in that parish register, maybe I find them in the one nearby. And here's a list of the different ones. Let me just close that down. And so as I scroll over them, you can see the different parishes around. And I can also do the ordinance survey so that you can see more details. You can also go into layers and you can, let me go back to map. You can add some of these other boundaries, because there's so many jurisdictions that you can search on in England. Sometimes it's helpful to know exactly what diocese it's in. So it's in, well, looks like it's in the Norfolk diocese. So I found it very handy when I'm doing research to be able to tell what parishes are around, or even where the parish actually is if I go out. It's incredible how many parishes there were in the city of Norwich. There's almost 100, if you can believe that. And every single one of them obviously had a church. I have been to the St. Martin at Oak Church. It's obviously been closed for about 100 years. It's in a very poor district and there was no wonder they emigrated to Canada. So that's just a quick little one. How are you doing, Karen?
Well, I tried to, I can cover it, but I don't have a picture of the church.
Oh, okay.
So maybe you should, because I tried to send it from my smartphone to my computer so we could look at the church, and it doesn't seem to want.
We'll have you as a short topic at one of our next meetings then, okay?
I prefer that, thanks.
Anne has a treat for us. She's going to show us something on Family Tree Maker. So you have to flip over.
I have to use my own computer because that's where.
Yeah, I don't have Family Tree Maker on my computer.
Push it to the.
I was thinking probably.
Yeah, okay. It's coming and going.
Yeah, look behind you and see if that's what you want in, because it's changed again. It seemed okay there for a moment.
I don't know what it's doing. This is really strange. Maybe I can move this over a bit and drag the whole. Okay, well this will work anyway. All right, I wanted to talk about something called an Ahnentafel, which is German and it means a name list. Okay. Sometimes you want to send people in a very compact form just a list of all your ancestors. And Ahnentafels do that, and it organizes them by generation. This is the Ahnentafel for my son, because that way I get my side and Dan's side both in it. Okay, and all the entries are numbered, and they start with the person whose Ahnentafel it is, and they're number 1. Then their parents are 2 and 3. Grandparents 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you're following your Y DNA, for instance, each generation it doubles. See, 1, 2, 4, 8, and so the next one would be 16. So as you go up, of course, you're going to have a lot of ancestors, but usually if you don't know the name of the person, you just leave it out, but you keep the numbering as if they were there. So you see, by the time I'm getting back to 8 generations, there's not all that many people whose names that I know, but the numbers, see the DeLongs there, 128, 129, but then it skips to 178 because all the other ones don't know who they are. Okay. But this way, you could send somebody a list of your ancestors on just a couple of sheets of paper or a small file, and but on the other hand, if you're doing this manually, that's a lot of work. So I found that Family Tree Maker will make an Ahnentafel list for you. Where is it down here? It's kind of funny, but I guess you can see it. Okay, so this is the Ahnentafel report, which, see here where it says publish. When you say publish, one of the things you can pick is reports and genealogy reports and Ahnentafel report.
How do you spell that, please?
Okay, so Ahnentafel.
Thank you.
Okay, so you can choose on your Ahnentafel report items to include. So you could just make just the names, but if you're sending it to people that you're wondering if it's their same ancestor, it's a good idea if maybe you put the birth date or things like that in. But you can also expand it. You can see, you can put all the notes and everything you have in your file in if you want to, but then it's going to be a huge file. You lose your advantage of being able to give people a couple of sheets of paper or send them a small file. One thing here, I've clicked on exclude children, and if I didn't, see, it's making a new report, and it'll add the children of each of these people in, which it's thinking. Maybe I should have done that. There's a lot of them. Wait a minute. I'm going to cancel that because there's a lot of people. But as you see, as you go down, it's making a little couple of sentences about each person as it goes down, generation 5. And actually, I have on this report, oops, one person on generation 18. But that's not my research. Somebody sent me that stuff. I haven't actually traced anybody back that far myself. Okay, so
Where's the wood?
Must be related.
Yep, I'm sure it's the same family. Yeah. So, as you can see, when we get further back, there's hardly any information, and the Ahnentafel doesn't say how well confirmed this information is. It's basically just sort of a starting point for people to talk to see what they can find. So anyway, it's kind of a compact, neat report, and it will, instead of just a little line like that, you can have it so that underneath each line it has the same information about their children, so that way you get all the brothers and sisters from the tree as well. So it's pretty handy. Because you don't always want to send somebody your whole GEDCOM. And I know I don't, because I use Family Tree Maker not just for my own connected family, but I also use it for, I put in any DeLongs that I can find anywhere, and I put in all the information in case they connect up later. And I don't want to send somebody all that stuff, which may have nothing to do with their family. So this is something I prefer to send people. Okay?
Nancy, I can be very fast.
Yes.
On that last one.
Can
This time
I just
can be
make
very
a
fast.
comment on that? And there's options there to whether you're going to include notes or not.
Yes.
If you make, from personal experience, if you send one of these files to someone and under their family, you made a note to yourself about dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
Don't make sure you
Yes.
check that you don't send the notes with your.
Exclude private notes.
Yes.
Yes.
So you need to make it a private note.
Most of my notes are about census documents. Okay.
And you might want to tell everyone you can save it as well.
Oh. You can save it.
Yes, so that if you ever want to go back to it, you know what you've got already saved.
I think you have to use this
It's up
export.
at save up there,
Where?
up under. I can't, under Ahnentafel report something, I can't read it. See the little icons? There's a.
Oh, here.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
there. You can
Save
make a lot
report.
of changes up there too, to your report,
And-
but you can save it.
Yes. Set up the page to look differently, put
Yes.
headers or footers on it, change the font to be bigger or smaller.
But
Yeah.
there is a way to save.
And there's a definitely a save there, so,
I find it helpful.
yeah.
Someone asked me the other day I'm trying to remember, what replaces Family Tree Maker, because I know it's not available anymore. But I have Family Tree Maker and it's great, but,
Well, it got taken over by Mac Kiev,
right.
but it's still Family Tree Maker. I don't know if they've done any
You
updates
still
on
have
it.
it? You can still purchase it, or?
I believe so.
Oh,
It's just not being
Supported.
supported by Ancestry
yeah,
anymore.
okay, thank you.
Um,
So you can't, it's.
Mac Kiev was the company that created the Mac version of Family Tree Maker. And when the whole kerfuffle came up, they negotiated with Ancestry and took over both sides, Windows and Mac.
So you could not sync now, like I sync all the
Yeah,
information.
yeah,
Okay.
Yes, I never send them anything anyway, so I don't care.
Yeah, and I don't think so.
I sync everything because the reports are that much better.
Sync, sync with who?
Ancestry.ca.
You can't sync family
Not
tree with.
anymore.
Not anymore.
No, they've.
Oh.
Well, you can still do it if you were already set up to do it.
Yeah, that's what I can still do it.
Yeah, because mine still syncs.
Does it? Okay. I didn't have it, so I couldn't comment on that.
Oh, okay.
So Dan, what's your,
That one was
23andMe slides?
23andMe.
Eventually. It's just that.
And I'm going to be fast because it's on slides.
Okay.
And that one, does that get it going?
Yeah, I just do this.
Oh, that one? Okay.
There we go.
All right. Number one, 23andMe is another one that does the, and Ann, if you can do the camera. There's another one that does your DNA, but it's a little bit different in that they also will give you health recommendations. So we'll get quickly through the ancestry stuff, the genealogical stuff, and Bob, if you have anything to add, please do, or come to the mic with me or something if you want to cover this. But they put the price up, it looks like, to $250 when I went to the home page today. And they are revamping their whole website, the information, the way they present it, and what they present.
But they announced if you want Ancestry only, it's going to be $99 US. You won't get the health.
Ancestry only is $99.
Yeah,
Okay.
US.
US. Well, they're changing a lot of it in the Canadian system. As you can see, it says 23andMe has paused our research program in Canada, and we will notify you about changes. Okay, I did push the button. There we are. Now, this just shows you, if you have an account, some of the options that you can get into. As I said, I'm going to go fast. And you can see that when you do your DNA with them, they will pair you up with some other people. There's an Emily Fisk that I seem to have a couple of strands in common with. And I did communicate with her. They give you the chance to do an invite. You know, would you like to exchange information? What would you like to share with others? And let me see. I'm going to skip that one because I forgot why it's there. They will show you on maps where you have matches, or partial matches. And this is for the United States. That's for Europe. Notice I have a couple over there in the Far East. And here's a list of matches and the degree to which they match. There's more to explain here, but we're rushing right now. And the fellow at the top there, the Huber, is the fourth cousin, apparently. And so when you click on his name, you start seeing more information about him. And this is just more concentrated. And when I looked him up, there was quite a bit of information, but he died last November. However, his sister is going to keep maintaining this information for the family and about him. And then you can see they've split 23andMe into two parts. There's the ancestry part and the health overview. So in the ancestry part, they will give you a world map and tell you, like Bob was showing, the proportions of, I guess, DNA coming from various parts of the world. I thought I was 0.08 Native American, but now they've got me down to 0.04, so I don't know what happened there. They keep changing to get in new information. And so I'm 99.6% European, and those are the branches. And this is rather interesting, and Nancy, I may have to ask you later if there is a moment. They say that your genetic matches your genes because of the C's and the G's and the A's and everything. They actually came up with a tune for me. And I could have it played as piano, or I could have it played as sitar. Well, it's deeper into the unit, so don't get out yet. No, I won't play it here. I didn't have time to put it into the PowerPoint. But there's a file, like you can then have it played and download the file. So I have a melody that's personalized.
Oh, how interesting.
Click on a trait for information. Now, this is part of the health, I guess. Are you likely to taste bitter? Are you, let me see, there's a whole bunch up there. Non-bitter tasting. You'll see some more of this later. Now, when it comes to, I guess, this is the mitochondrial, the matriarchal side. It means something. I don't know yet. I haven't looked at this for over a year. I just looked at it this afternoon and spent an hour making these slides. And there's the paternal Y chromosome. Now, where did I come from? 23,000 years ago, apparently this area. And the mother's side from this area. And I noticed that when I clicked on one of the ladies, Alyssa Batista is her name, you can start seeing how much you're related to somebody else. Now I only picked one side. I should have picked over on the other side, and then it would show how well I'm related to that person. Now this one, what is this one again? Oh yes, if I happen to marry one of the people, with the other people who were tested, if I happen to marry Brenda Wisby, is that what it says? If I happen to marry her, these are some of the features, and there were lots more scrolling down the page that we would have. And yes, I do have wet earwax. And now we're getting into the health side of things. Now there's the one thing that stood out in my genetics. My mother did have a stroke. My grandmother had thick blood. I have too many platelets. I'm not supposed to have this many, but I have a lot of platelets, so if I get a cut, it heals quickly. And so I have a risk for thrombosis, but that's about it. Inherited conditions, see, variants absent. And there were a lot more, it's just that this slide only has a few. And alcohol flush reaction, that's how quickly you get rid of alcohol. So I get good value for my beer. And bitter taste, there it is. Blonde hair, yes, a lot of the babies born in our family had blonde hair. My sister had it through her life. Well, until she's gray now. No, she doesn't. I call her likely brown. I haven't looked in a mirror lately.
It's brown.
My mother's were brown. And, oh yeah, proton pump inhibitor. This is where we call on Nancy. I'll step out of the way a bit. She knows all about this stuff. Warfarin, sensitivity is increased.
So if you get a stomach ulcer, you're going to rapidly metabolize the drug.
Okay.
And you'll need to have higher doses of your proton pump inhibitor.
And warfarin, I don't usually partake of rat poison, but...
With your tendency to thrombosis, you may need to go on warfarin.
Yeah.
And you'll be very sensitive to it.
Thank you. There are a few more up there. Oh, I have a higher risk of simvastatin-induced myopathy.
Simvastatin is a cholesterol drug, and one of the side effects of the cholesterol drugs is it can break down muscle, and you would be at higher risk of having broken down muscle from
taking simvastatin.
I need my muscle.
Yes, so don't take simvastatin.
And by the way, it was dead on when it said my blood type. It didn't have blood to test, it just had saliva. But there's my blood type, right dead on.
Are you positive?
Yeah.
RH?
Mhm,
Wow,
RH
look at
positive.
that, eh?
Yeah, oh, RH positive.
Mhm.
What's this one? Oh, I don't know what this is, but you might, Nancy.
Well, risk of a heart attack 15%, that's not bad.
Good, I'm glad to hear that.
Now, you could get it down a bit if you kept your cholesterol low, that's what the
Right,
second
they give
says.
recommendations. Now, the ones I'm not showing you are my extra weight. Now, there was another one in there, I can't remember, but I prefer not to show that one. And what's this? Oh yes, I could have, in fact I tried. The fellow who died, he said that he had his family tree on both Ancestry, on My Heritage, or whatever.
My Heritage, yeah.
Yeah, well, I tried to do the Ancestry one. I do have a free login, but it wouldn't let me see anything until I started paying. I hate those people. And now
Yeah,
it's My Heritage, the same
you
deal.
have to have an Ancestry DNA membership. Well,
Right.
maybe not just to see the family.
Well, I
tree.
couldn't, clicking on it, do any of that.
Oh,
On either one. I couldn't see any of his family history.
But Dan, you can make a family tree on My Heritage if you've paid for the 23andMe.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
All right,
On
Ann says
Ancestry-
I can make a My Heritage
On
family
My
tree
Heritage, they're connected.
for free, because 23andMe is associated with them.
And then on Ancestry, I have a free account as well. And you can put up your information, you can see matches, but you can't see their details, but you can contact the people, I believe.
I didn't see any of that, but maybe I'll try it again.
But I've been tested with Ancestry as well. So.
Yeah. Do you want to hear my tune?
Sure.
Nancy just has to go to that USB key, and there are some MP4 files on there. I think I've got piano and sitar or something like that.
How about bluegrass?
do we want piano, koto, or steel drums?
Try that one. It's only 8 seconds long. They don't give you a whole song. They just give you 8 seconds.
This is hoping that
Oh, there's
I
no
have a player.
speaker hooked up, is there?
Well, just what I've got here, so.
Well, I've got something here, but if you've got an output, this can go in. I forgot about that.
Don't.
You have an output?
How do we get to iTunes?
Just put the
That
microphone next
just
to
needs to
it.
be plugged into it. And
Okay.
you can hear it again.
How we got into iTunes, but anyway.
That's me.
They're pretty, actually.
Another one? Hard to hear steel drums.
Just sounds as good.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds
It's
pretty
exactly the
good.
same sound.
I think it-
Oops.
Yeah, I had the volume up, but it didn't seem to be doing much.
Paid $100 to hear that?
They just brought that out recently. Well, there we are.
There we are.
That's it.
I think at this point in time,
Question.
sure.
I just started to talk about 23andMe, something about not available in Canada, was it?
Maybe Nancy knows more about it. I just checked on it today after about a year of
Well,
not looking.
23andMe is one of the big DNA companies.
Okay.
They also have the health information side of things,
Right.
looking at different chromosomes and seeing if you've got risks.
But there was a comment made at the beginning, something.
Yes, and my understanding is they're just holding off on the Canadian market right now, and they'll let us know when they're back.
You mean they won't even
Yeah.
test you?
No, they're talking about the research there, and one of the things that they do is, normally, when you go in, every time you log in, they ask you some questions, and you can